Oh, welcome. Thank you for joining us for the news review. And guess who's back? Welcome back.
Ta-da! Well, thank you very much.
Oh, I thought we'd make it more exciting. Pop some champagne.
Oh, it's not like I missed
pop
you
some
plenty,
balloons.
Yeah.
How are you this morning, though?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
Right.
Yeah. How are you?
Oh, I'm well. And we're also joined by Gifty Andor at Pierre. Gifty, can you hear me yet? Good morning.
Hear you loud and clear about popping champagne and all of those things.
Yeah. I can see you in the. we just might pop the champagne where you are.
Hi, Miss Gifty.
Bring the money to me, Mama V. Where have you been?
Sleeping.
Ask her again. Ask her again. You know, this is one we must do an expose on, but not on live television. But Gifty, thank you for joining us. Let's start with you. What papers do you have that you're going to be sharing with us by way of headlines?
Okay, I have the Finder newspaper, and I also have the Daily Statesman newspaper. I mean, those are the two papers that I have.
Okay.
If you want me to start.
No, we shall get to the headlines shortly, Gifty. I have the Ghanaian Times, the Finder newspaper, the Ghanaian Publisher, and the Daily Searchlight, the Custodian, and the Daily Statesman as well. But we'll see how many of those we can do.
Daily Graphic, Daily Dispatch, Republic Press, the three papers that I have.
Okay.
Well.
So, ladies, I'd like us to take a minute to look at this bit. It's a bit of a foreign story, but I know your penchant.
George Floyd.
George Floyd.
Yeah.
Derek Chauvin on all three counts: third-degree murder, second-degree murder, second-degree manslaughter. And the security measures they put in place, you know, before that, the 3,000 police officers, I should say, the security at the court, and even within the town, the city, because they felt that there might be chaos. Is this what you expected?
Well, personally, I actually didn't have expectations because, you know, this is US. This is a typical state where they had never found any officer guilty of an offense like this.
So quite a precedent. I
actually didn't want to expect anything, but I thought that the prosecution did a fantastic job. I was following closely his closing argument as well. It was really, really impressive. And I'd heard...
And the judge, too, in giving, you know, the directions to the jury about how, you know, breaking it down for them. Interesting.
And I'd heard how, you know, the jury had to agree, all of them. You know, they had to reach a consensus.
It's consensus or nothing.
And it would usually take about, you know, a day to a week. And so totally didn't expect that it was going to come out yesterday when it did, and guilty, you know, those charges. So that's just what I thought. Some people say this is a turning point. However, even after George Floyd, we know that there have been some killings as well.
Breonna Taylor.
Just yesterday, whilst this verdict was being read, there was another shooting of an African-American woman. So we don't know if this is the turning point, but that's just my thoughts.
Well, maybe what resonates with what you're saying is what Reverend Jesse Jackson said. Gifty, just a second. Reverend Jesse Jackson mentioned that it is a step, but it's only just the beginning because, you know, there are a lot of other things to consider, a lot of these happening. But you remember those $27 million that supposedly the Floyd family has got by way of, that's not a bad thing at all. Gifty?
Well, I wanted to say that I am impressed by the defense to be able to take up this case. I think it took a lot of...
the jury, I will now read the verdict as they will appear.
Yes, Gifty, we're listening to you.
Yeah, I was saying that I think it took a lot of courage for the defense to take on this case. And I admire lawyers, I admire teams that take up cases like this that looks almost unsurmountable. But I think that the US had come to a point where it couldn't have gone any other way. It could have gone somehow, you know, the other way. Like Mama V said, this is the US. But I think that there is a bit of momentum at this time that calls for this kind of judgment, or that calls for this kind of results from a jury put together. I get the feeling that they felt that the whole system would have exploded should it have been any other way around? This was something, one of the things that the prosecution made clear was that there was a 9-year-old who saw what was happening and actually knew that it was wrong sitting on someone's neck like that and told the police officer to get off his neck. So it's like something that a 9-year-old can read through as wrong. You can't have a whole jury go wrong with it. So I think there was a momentum that called for this kind of result at this point, and the US couldn't have risked it, I think, or the people involved couldn't have risked it with all that's surrounding this case. So, well, but I give it to the defense. I think they did well. When you listen to them, sometimes they give a different perspective of the issue, because this looks straightforward.
Yeah.
You know, this looks very straightforward, like someone sitting on someone's neck and all of that. But the defense.
Start for us from your end. So your headlines, and then we can come in studio, and Mama V will continue.
I have the final newspaper, like I said, the banner, the banner story here. President cuts sought for appeals courts, flats. That story is on page 8 of the newspaper, and it's at a cost of 76.5 million. And this is going to judges in Kumasi. Also, you have the energy minister there saying, bear with government to address current power outages. The story is on page 5. Dr. Matthew Pokiprempe has his picture there. And the other stories, Employers Association opposes water electricity tariff hike. The story is on page 4. And government not against regulated small-scale mining, Abuja on page 6. Oil marketing companies back government stance against third-party fuel supplies. Those are the top stories or the headlines in the Finder newspaper. Let me quickly shift to the Daily Statesman. The Daily Statesman is reporting, call your sycophants to order. Kumbo charges Mahama. A story page 2. I bet, it's on page 2 of the Daily Statesman. And NAPO is saying that government is investing in the energy sector to address power outages. That story is on page 2, slightly different from the way that the Finder newspaper couches that story. And then appeals court complex housing project for judges starting to Kumasi. That story is on the page 2 of the Daily Statesman. Back page of the paper, European Super League created to save football. Real Madrid president Florentino Perez is saying that, and I'm happy to join the biggest club in Algeria. That's Joseph Esso. But you know what has happened to the Super League anyway.
It is not so super.
It's not so super, I guess. but Chelsea checking out the way they did the Charlie. So Nipana Jaisame.
Okay, so those are the papers that I have. I guess I hand over to you guys in the studio to take us through your headlines.
All right, so let's go through the Daily Graphic newspaper, one of the 3 papers that I'll be reviewing. On the front page of the Daily Graphic, President cuts sought for court complex judges' residence. No homes, logistics to take child beggars off streets. So this is a campaign, and there's been a lot of calls to the domestic division of the police, the DOFSU, and officers are saying that in some of the districts they haven't had any vehicles since the department was set up. And so how do you expect them to go around and pick beggars? Details of that story is on page 16. Zoomlion Partners graphic on waste management. China's cocoa exports is the banner headline. Cocoa Board MOFA assesses impacts. If you go to page 5 of the paper, it's a development story. Chad president killed, Sun takes over. In the center spread, Germany to support Ghana produce vaccines locally. Employers caution against utility tariff increase. Mother Earth Day commemorated at a cluster of schools. And on the back page of the Daily Graphic, Galamsey threatens water supply in Western Central regions, according to the Ghana Water Company Limited. To the Daily Dispatch now, on the front page, you do not change a winnable team, Ephson tells NDC. Small-scale miners slot Jenapo. Jogate missed out on ministerial appointment due to flag bearer ambition. Top 10 accident-prone areas in Accra. Paper is highlighting that. ECG load shedding chats also contained in today's edition of the Daily Dispatch newspaper.
Jogate Diano, one shouting. One shouting.
Republic Press is the final one. Banner headline, Techiman Pink Sheets days NDC as party suspects foul play. Dr. Baumia has proven his critics wrong, according to Amabuzia. China exporting cocoa is a cause for concern, according to Cocoa Board. New taxes on fuel, COVID-19 levy starts from May 1. Doomsor timetable out soon. Our investment in the energy sector will stop power outages, according to the sector minister.
Okay, so let me do, you did the Ghanaian Times, Gifty, but let me just add this bit. ECG announcing the load shedding timetable, just to reiterate that bit. Then on page 3 of the paper, we did not give our statements voluntarily. Accused persons claim in the major Mahama murder trial. That's a new twist in the residents evacuated as Cape Town fire spreads. That's on the international front on page 5. When you go to the center spread of the paper, Sanitation Minister tasks chiefs to join fight against Galamsey. In the publisher newspaper, Amabusia endorses Baumia. He has proven himself, and I'll have quite a bit to say about this. Kumbo tells Mahama, call the sycophantic campaigners to order, and he's been saying, well, it's time for us to heal the horse rather than select a horse rider. We'll delve into a bit of that. That's in the Ghanaian publisher newspaper. The Custodian, Agenda 2024 stokes fire in NDC. Kumbo blasts sycophantic childish clamor for Mahama. And there's Ghana grabs 88% of 2020 WASI 8As. That's another story I want to get into. I guess those will be the 3 papers I'll be focusing on by way of stories. So, Gifty, what would you like to highlight before we come back into the studio by way of the stories?
Well, I don't really have a particular choice of which stories to highlight today. But I do like the idea that we are developing the judiciary. You know, we're investing in the judiciary. One of the things that I say is that we don't believe, most people or many Ghanaians don't seem to believe in the police service. Some have issues even, we do have the military, but they are not law enforcers, right? So I think that one of the key institutions we have in this country that we ought to protect very carefully is the judiciary. So I find it interesting also that the newspapers are highlighting it and putting it on the front pages about, President cutting the sword for the appeals court and the flats for our judges. Because when your judges are well resourced, you are rest assured that the things like were highlighted in Anasari Miyao report won't be happening. And you are sure that if the police are not fair with me, I can take my matter up high and it can be dealt with. So for me, it's interesting, but it's the cutting of sword, which is a bit of my problem, because we know how we cut swords here, and we know how it ends when we cut the sword. I mean, I can come to the studio and cut the sword for a 5-story building for Mama V, but as
foundation credible.
As to whether or not the cutting of sword will amount to anything is another. But I am hopeful. Okay, I'm hopeful that we're saying that it's going to cost us 76.5 million cedis. I'm hopeful that the money has already been allocated and it's not going to be touched, and then we'll actually do this, because it might sound like, maybe you can say, oh, the president is trying to score political points, or maybe it's just to making it look as if he's doing something. But I think it's a very important thing that we've done. As to whether or not we move from the sword cutting is another thing. And then we have the energy minister. The final newspaper does it this way. It says, bear with government to address current power outages. It sounds very, not very Napolic to me, but I think it sounds just about right, because people are going to endure a lot of inconveniences. And so if you're saying it this way, it sounds nice. But we still have details that are yet to come. Details about how long this power shedding or this load shedding schedule that we now have from the ECG between 10th and 17th. How long is it going to last? Are we going to have another in June, another in July? Is it going all the way to September or December? I think there are questions that we still need some answers
Gifty, please don't give them ideas. Don't give them ideas when it comes to that. But I was about to ask you, is your area affected? Because I know your specs might be affected.
Pick, I was actually also going to comment on the ECG timetable thing. I get what they're trying to do now, but that's not my reality. My reality is that I am still going off, and I've been going off. So what I'm experiencing now, how do they refer to that? Where does that, how does that come into this timetable? I'm already experiencing a lot. So what do I make of the timetable? I actually don't know, and I kept asking myself yesterday. Because you say from 10th to the 17th or so, but my lights are going off right now. And there's no explanation, there's no timetable. Yeah. So for me,
so in the interim, it's not reflective of your situation. It doesn't.
In the absence of saying this is a piece of joke, like I don't know what else to say. Honestly, this is not my reality. And I feel you because my lights are already going off.
My lights haven't been. It's not been that erratic for me. In fact, to be very fair, my lights practically don't go off. It's the fluctuation that sometimes, you know, comes on and off, and it can get a bit worrying. But for some people, it is doom.
It's been going off. It's been. I mean, it went off for a long time yesterday, and then, you know, still with the low voltage issue. That one, you're constantly, like, every day. And so what happened to the Bui Dam issue? What the Grid Co Systems Director came to say, and what they said yesterday. Like, how do we make sense of everything? How does it all come together for me? It sounds like like a very managed thing that they're trying to do with what's happening with this timetable that is out. I don't get it. Even before we get to 10th of May, I'm already going
it would be interesting at some point to find out from all of you watching us this morning. How do you feel about the timetable? Are you affected? And whether or not you're affected, how do you feel this in any way resolves the problem in there? We have just about 6 minutes. Mama, would you like to get into a story? I have 3 that I could
go ahead with it. Go ahead with yours.
So Ghana grabs 88% of 2020 WASSCE 8As. That's in the Custodian newspaper. It's on page 2. And Ghana topped the 2020 West African Senior School Certificate Examination with the highest number of grade A results, a total of 411 out of the 465 candidates who scored grade A in all subjects were students from Ghana, pioneering the government's free senior high school program. It goes on, and Dr. Opoku-Prempeh talking about vindication, and he reiterated that the 2020 results were the only academic year in which 50% of Ghanaian students scored A1 to C6 in all core subjects. A feather in the cap of Ghana, really. We've done well, but I think as you are taking the glory, you should also take the blame, some of the problems we've had with free SHS. I highlight this because it's a positive, but when we talk about the negatives, sometimes it rubs off very badly on people. You can't eat your cake and have it, so enjoy both sides, but kudos to Ghana on that feat. Then Dr. Kumbo has been blasting the sycophantic, childish clamor for Mahama. My simple thoughts on that would be that I agree with both those who are rooting for Mahama, and I agree with Dr. Kumbo, a former lecturer of mine. Here's what I think. The reality is, within the NDC currently, and as some people have already put out there, including Ben Ephson, you don't have a figure who is more popular than John Dramani Mahama. So that's one reality that party will have to face. That's their problem to face. But on the other hand, you also have to look at the core problems within the party and addressing the grassroots problems, which is why I also agree with Dr. Kumbo. So those are my thoughts on those matters. And finally, Mama, Amabuzia endorsing Mahama. I've read a lot about this, and I feel aggrieved in a way because it appears as though, yes, Amabuzia is a founding member of the MPP, but did she have to approve Bawumia before maybe he would have some sense of, because initially the rhetoric is that she felt, no, he didn't qualify for the position. Now, all of a sudden, he has proven himself, and he is qualified even to be president. I mean, it's a whole hodgepodge of issues, but I don't want to let go of some of my thoughts. I just feel we ought to go past some matters, really. We ought to go past it.
I actually read it just as a headline. I wasn't interested in.
Oh, the
story that I want to highlight is this issue of lack of logistics for the officers who are supposed to take care of these beggars that we've been talking about, that they've occupied a lot of our streets, and they've become a nuisance, very aggressive in the way that they tend to beg.
Yesterday, some were rapping on my car, like they were rapping, hey, like.
Yeah, and they tend to get upset when they realize that you're ignoring them. Well, currently, the various offices of the Department of Social Welfare, the assemblies, lack vehicles to enable officials to move around to pick child beggars from the streets. Here's one officer who says that for the 31 years that he's worked as a social worker, the department has not earmarked a single vehicle for them to go around. So how do you expect us to effectively help rid our city of child beggars? That's
how do you
the
expect
reality.
Them to do that?
That's
how do you
the
expect
reality.
Them to do that?
Yeah. So, whilst we look at the other issues, let's also remember. So we can talk about the fact that they become a nuisance and they are disturbing us, but who is actually responsible for checking?
Yeah.
They don't have the tools to do it.
So social welfare, social workers, gender ministry, child protection, and all of that. Something interesting that just came to mind. In other jurisdictions, even stray animals or animals that aren't supposed to be somewhere, there are mechanisms in place to get them off the street. Here in Ghana, human beings, I use the animal thing with all respect, human beings, and we don't even have systems in place to check it. Well,
Gefty, you're there?
Yes, yesterday I think we talked about that story. So it's also interesting that another newspaper is reporting it today with a different angle, which is great. One thing I'd like to just touch on before we wrap up is that the lands minister, Samuel Abu-Jinapor, has also been going around talking about the fact that government is not against small-scale mining. I think that now that he has started his own work, we're looking forward to his contribution to it. But we shouldn't be giving mixed signals, because the concerns that people have about this community mining that we started is that people are actually using it. Politicians, big people are actually using it to do galamsey, to do the illegal ones anyway. And I think it's important for us not to give mixed signals. We looked at the video from Asanko Gold, and you look at concessions that are owned by companies that are being encroached upon by galamseyers. I think that there has to be very serious conversations going on, engagement of the leaders of these galamseyers so that they can have a conversation, because there is a lot of economic gains to be made from a properly set up mining operation, which is what's going on. So we shouldn't give mixed signals, but we should also be careful with our community mining project.
Okay, let's quickly check out myjoyonline.com.
Yeah, myjoyonline.com. You find this lead story there. Kufuor's cousin and Noguchi cited for conflict of interest in Frontier's healthcare contracts. And a bit of that story as we bring what's on myjoyonline.com. It says the COVID-19 Corruption Risk Assessment Report 2021 has cited head of virology at Noguchi Medical Research Institute, Professor William Ampofo, for conflicts of interest in the controversial Frontiers Healthcare Services contract. According to the report, Professor Ampofo, who is cousin to President Kufuor and Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, supervised the validation of Frontiers Healthcare Services to commence its operations in Ghana even before the company could get approval. The Corruption Risk Assessment Report said that his involvement as a local agent was with no obvious value to the performance of the contract. It's a 67-page report. You can go to myjoyonline.com. That's the story, and then you can read a lot more on that and appreciate it. This contract has become a big issue in the past, during the vetting of appointees. Then this issue came up, more than two
It's
ministries.
an albatross round the neck of.
It'll be interesting. You can take your
this.
time and read in detail, and then draw your own conclusions based on this risk assessment reports. There are plenty of other stories on myjoyonline.com that you can explore in a time convenient to you, really.
Well, thank you very much, Gifty, for joining us, for joining the news review. But before we go, we can't move on to sports without this. We celebrate our own. He recently tied the knot, and today happens to be his birthday. Yes, Stephen Kwete.
Kwete
Nati.
Kwete Nati.
So, no, Charlie, he really went with birthday. Again at the whole while.
He's on a honeymoon, isn't he?
Ponding for
He is, Mama V.
Oh, and he's celebrating his birthday.
Yeah, he sent me a message with the content that I can't review on air.
All right, so happy birthday to you, Koite. I want to say good morning to Mr. Kofi Esel of the FDA, and to our Muslim brothers and friends and sisters still in the Ramadan fasting. Charlie, big ups to you all.
Yeah. Anyway, time now for us to move over for sports. That's up next on the AM show. Do stay.